Hi guys, Michael Ingledew from TDW, and this week I want to talk a little bit about applicability, because applicability has come up a few times over the last few weeks, and we've had 2 or 3 specific questions come into us from TDIQ subscribers and non-TDIQ subscribers on using applicability. There's confusion about applicability and how it works, which is why we have just done about an hour and 10-minute course on TDIQ, where it introduces the concepts of applicability and the different components of applicability and how you can use that on a project. We go through some examples and we go through some alternatives, which is not something that you hear a lot, but there are different ways that you can work with filtering or the application of configured data, which is what we're talking about here. Now, when we first received this question, I had in my mind about how I really wanted to put together a tutorial for YouTube, which is what I'm going to talk about right now. And whilst I was doing that, I was driving through the Somerset Hills up by Cheddar Gorge and those kind of things, and it kind of dawned on me whilst I was driving was that we're surrounded by applicability. We are absolutely, everywhere we go, we have applicability, whether that's choosing the right bathroom that we're going to go to, whether it's disabled, male, female, baby changing, whatever it might be, to choosing the right road that we're going to drive to get to our destination. And those roads are all identified with road numbers: A259, A27, M1, M11, whatever it might be. They all are appropriate for us to get to a destination. But furthermore, that goes slightly more granular. So it goes more granular because it talks about, weight restrictions. Certainly if you're on some of the smaller roads here in the UK, you have height restrictions. We have some small bridges which you can't take large vehicles on. This is all applicability. And I went around the Haynes Manual Museum whilst I was up that way. I had a few hours to waste, and I get excited about old vintage vehicles, and I went to the Haynes Museum, and they've got rows and rows of cars, but they are pretty much the same manufacturer, and some of them are the same model, but they are slightly differentiated by maybe the size of the engine or the type of gearbox or whatever it might be. This is all applicability. Now, the role of applicability is not a new concept to us as technical communicators. When we are writing our technical information, we normally write into a manual, this is for pre-mod, this is for post-mod, or this is for us if we are in a cold environment, or this is us if we are in a hot environment. That concept is not new. It's not something that has been invented by S1000D or any other specification. The way we apply it has changed. With the introduction of XML and ultimately the delivery of interactive manuals means that we can get very clever about the way that we identify the information that goes within our tech data for our end user. Now, if we're still going out to paper-based manuals or PDF, you can still have that traditional pre-post-mod kind of pretext to every paragraph, to a data module, to a chapter, to a book, whatever it might be. But with the more of a shift to interactive manuals, it makes sense that you try and do something a little bit more intelligent with your data. And this is where the S1000D applicability modeling comes in. Now, people get very tied up and het up about applicability. Why? Because, first of all, it's designed for software programs to be able to interact with and engage with the data that the author's producing, to how the information is going to be filtered and presented to an end user at the other end. So the software in the middle needs something logical that it can pull into, and it can ask intelligent questions of the end user, and based on those answers it will present the information that has been created by our technical author to reach a certain amount of parameters. Now, I'm even using tech speak. Now, in the winter issue of the TDW magazine, I talk about applicability, but I use an everyday example on how to conceptualize this in your mind using something as simple as an Excel spreadsheet. And once you understand, if you understand Excel spreadsheets, you can understand the principles that are behind an S1000D applicability model. It's all about how we define the attributes associated with our product that we want to be able to filter on applicability. And we then define those instances of our product against those attributes. And we also have the ability to define the environment that the information or the product is going to be used in. Once you get these concepts in your mind straight, they are very easy to follow. If you have chosen a software vendor that can support good, solid, robust applicability modeling, then they have probably got tools that will help you build and configuration manage that applicability modeling. Because building the applicability model is one thing. It's about how you manage it throughout the product lifecycle of your platform, of your project, or whatever it might be. The author has to understand the role of applicability and how it applies to your data. These are all things that we cover on the course. On the course, we talk about some real examples. So we have a look at a hardware platform, as in something that has systems or something that has subsystems, and how you might want to use applicability. But we also take a laptop and have a look at the configuration, how you might want to manage the configuration of a laptop. And we look at software, how you might be able to take the applicability model and apply it to software. The course is an introduction to applicability, the concepts of applicability, and the tables associated with applicability management and creation within S1000D. Now, of course, applicability is different at various levels of S1000D. In older versions of S1000D, it was kind of a rat's nest and you could do whatever you wanted. In the newer versions of S1000D, it is a little bit more process driven, especially if your vendor has got to grips with how applicability works. Applicability does not have to be inventing the new space system that's going to go to Pluto or to Mars. You have to look at your project sensibly and decide where the applicability modeling and the filtering is necessary and where it's going to happen. Applicability is not something that you should be frightened of, and believe it or not, depending on the complexity of your project, there are alternatives to applicability, which we talk about over on TDIQ. So join us on TDIQ and we can talk you through the process associated with applicability. We'll tell you the role of all of the individual tables that are associated with a model that might suit your organization. We have in the winter edition of the magazine, which I have the current autumn issue up behind me online, you can go ahead and order that. We have I think it's an 8-page article on applicability, and it talks about the individual tables associated with applicability. Now, what's really important is that there are specific vendor challenges around applicability, because not everyone supports it how S1000D says you should support it. Some support applicability in their own special way, and some support it exactly as S1000D does expect you to support the applicability modeling. Now, Again, we cover the specific software challenges over on TDIQ. Now, I hope you find the time to join us on the course, and I hope you get time to read the article that we have produced for the winter edition of the magazine. If you are having particular problems with applicability, and since we've announced the course, we've already had 5 or 6 questions in from organizations saying we're having problems understanding applicability. The reality is it's a logical thought process. You need to be able to think logically, and you need to understand how each table interacts, and then you also need to understand how your vendor produces the end product from your data that supports either the static or the dynamic or the filtered data out to your end user, because everybody does something slightly differently. So for example, you might have one vendor that will allow you to publish to an applicability, and you might have a vendor that only supports dynamic filtering at the back end with the end user putting in parameters within the IETP. So it comes down to your selected environment and how it's going to work. But we talk you through the S1000E applicability process and how it's meant to work, and how you can get your head around it, and how you can rationalize it against things like how Excel works, or how a standard thought process against something like standard like a laptop. And I think we talk about, you know, Microsoft Windows and how you might want to use applicability in Microsoft Windows and things like that. So I hope you found this useful. I know that lots of you are having this problem. It's a question that's come up time and time again. It's probably one of the more complicated subjects associated with S1000D. Everything else is a breeze apart from the S1000D process module, which is something else that's come into us that we're going to have a look at answering for you on TDIQ. And we are going to write an article probably in the spring edition for 2017 on the process module. Does it fit? Is it used? How can you use it? Because there are all lots of great questions about that. Anyway, I'm Michael Ingledew. I hope you found that useful. Go ahead and order our magazine online, or contact us here at TDW and find out how you can now access TDIQ online. We have many hundreds of users in there now, and it's being used by lots of great organizations, and some of you I know are watching this right now. Keep those questions coming in. We're enjoying answering them. Unfortunately, right now is a really busy time of year for us because we're preparing for the conference in 3 weeks' time, and we've got some exciting stuff that we're working on with a couple of vendors that we will be announcing, we hope, in the middle of December. And that will be a bit of a nice new introduction to what we're doing here at TDW. Thanks for all the positive feedback and the comments that we're getting about what we're doing and how we're doing it. We're enjoying it, and you know, it makes getting up for work fun every day, because we know that we're helping you guys get through your complex TD needs. And some of those feedback comments that we're getting are really humbling, and you know, I thank you for that. So do keep them coming in. All of you who have subscribed to the magazine, that is now winging its way around the world. We did delay for the Seville show. That's on its way to you, so you should have them soon. If you don't, get in touch with Claire or Lewis here, and they will make sure that they send out another one to you. If you're coming to TDW-Live in a couple of weeks, looking forward to seeing you there. It's going to be a very good event. We're probably double numbers last year, and the exhibitor places are all sold out. So, you know, it's going to be a great show, I'm absolutely sure. Anyway, enjoy. Come and join the applicability course. I'd like to hear the challenges that you're having with applicability, and come and see if the way that I've explained it actually makes sense to you.